Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. DB333, and welcome back to the New Campaign Trail. Now, last time we joined each other with the New Campaign Trail was in New Jersey, running against Chris Christie for governor race. We put in the shoes of a political newcomer by the name of Anthony Soprano, and with some help from machine politics, our legitimate connections as a member of the waste management community, and possibly organizing an assassination on Donald Trump, we ended up winning the governor's mansion in New Jersey. That was a lot of fun. This is going to be nobly less fun. I guess less lighthearted. Welcome to Midnight. 1965. Now, I've played the previous Midnight 1964 mod before. If you haven't checked that out. Essentially, the premise of it is if this gentleman right over here, George Lincoln Rockwell, found a way to become president of the United States. Now, if you don't understand how horrifying that is, in real life, Rockwell founded what I believe was called the American Nazi Party. Yeah, not a very nice guy at all. American neo-Nazi, American fascist activist, and founded the American Nazi Party. That's what his Wikipedia article starts off with. Anyhow. So 1964 was hopping in as Barry Goldwater and pulling in a narrow upset against Lyndon Johnson after it comes out through the Warren Report that he might have had something to do with the Kennedy assassination. So, yeah, you know, it's a different mod. It's very dark, but I've come to like it. I like the general atmosphere and what they're going with. And I got a chance to talk to the mod creator because he got my Discord for a little bit, Garfeld. Which, if you're watching with Garfeld, hello. Because I know you watch my previous ones. Hope you're doing well. Know he had to leave. Here's everyone else. Play this. I know he had to leave for a little bit there, but hope you're doing well. And I think this series was canceled for a bit, but I think it's back on now. And all we had to sacrifice was the future of the Red Mod series in Tom's credibility. Whether that'll be a worthwhile trade-off, we'll all have to wait and see. But let's get to it. While the masses of America prepare to elect their next president under heavy stress, those in the great Commonwealth of Virginia are faced with a different yet similar concern. For as the nation's presidential race draws to a close, the battle for governorship in Virginia is only just beginning. Next year's election appears to be a classic two-way race between the state's lieutenant governor, Mills Godwin, who at the moment is staunchly supported by Senator Byrd's seemingly unbeatable machine, and an up-and-coming politician by the name of Linwood Holton, who has spent much of his life fighting against the corrupt methods of the old senator. Many expect yet another landslide victory for the Democrats. However, with the passage of Johnson's Civil Rights Act, the shifting political landscape, rumors of possible third-party bids, and of course, the yet-to-be-decided presidential election, anything can happen. Go and hop into the content warning. I'll go ahead and read this real quick. This scenario, Midnight 1965, features George Lincoln Rockwell as the only playable candidate. In real life, Rockwell wasn't simply a racist or hate-monger, as he's portrayed here. He was an American Nazi. In fact, he led the American Nazi Party. I should have just read this instead of doing my disclaimer at the start. Neither myself nor this scenario, nor any of the wonderful people who helped create it, endorse Rockwell's views in any way, shape, or form. We condemn them in the strongest way possible. And we hope that this scenario can serve, at least in some form, as a tool to educate people on at least a small but significant portion of Rockwell's irrational hate. If any of this makes you feel uncomfortable, please exit the mod by reloading the page. I'll issue a similar disclaimer. I think this Nazi stuff is very silly and very mean, and I don't like it one bit. Can't put that in cute terms. If you're Nazi, fuck off. If you're made uncomfortable by shit like this, you can join me next week. We'll probably be playing something lighter and sillier. So, if you don't want to watch this, go ahead. None of this reflects my real life views. Because I'm gonna have to read some awkward shit. I already know. But, well, this is what we got today, so we're gonna go ahead and get to it. Here we are, George Lincoln Rockwell, of the traditional American Party from Arlington, Virginia. On that fateful day of March 19th, 1918, George Lincoln Rockwell was born in Bloomington, Illinois, to a distant father and a loving mother. Following the devastating divorce of his parents, which scared the young boy, Rockwell went to live with his mother, and by extension his aunt Arlene, whose relentless torment bordered on abuse. As he neared the end of his school career, which included such interesting events as the staging of one student strike against particularly authoritarian or otherwise annoying teachers, Rockwell dropped out of Rhode Island's Brown University and instead opted to join the Navy and fight in the greatest war the world had ever seen. When the war broke out in Korea, Rockwell was called upon to train pilots in San Diego, during which his marriage strained. He was promoted to commander, and most importantly, dark machinations began in his swirling mind. While stationed in Iceland, Rockwell divorced and remarried while descending further into the depths of extremism. When Rockwell, his new wife, and their children went back with him to America, Rockwell was faced with the task of providing for his new family. His efforts, which included inventing, writing, publicizing, and magazine promoting, all proved fruitless. When all other options were thoroughly exhausted, Rockwell finally entered the world of politics. In 1958, a meeting was arranged between Rockwell and DeWest Hooker, a wealthy New Yorker, for a record as a vile anti-Semite and open National Socialist. No records of the meeting's dialogue are said to exist. 1 year later, Rockwell founded the Traditional American Party, a white supremacist organization which has remained on the extreme fringe of national politics, unable to garner mass appeal or significant press attention. Rockwell achieved a breakthrough when he organized a counter-demonstration to Dr. King's March on Washington, which saw almost 10,000 segregationist protesters arrive. Since then, Rockwell's following has slowly grown, and with newfound confidence, he's prepared to test his support in a bid for Virginia's governorship. Well, you guys know the deal. Winner take all. Normal difficulty. Here we go. It's October 25th, 1964. Days from now, Americans will choose their next president, Lyndon Johnson or Barry Goldwater. Despite the immense fallout of the Warren Report scandal, Johnson clings to a narrow lead. Yet, you're miles away across the border in Canada, sitting across from a panel of two interviewers as cameras televise a scene. After some polite introductions, they ask you straight out, "Commander, how can you possibly justify leading an organization which advocates for the forced removal of more than 20 million Negroes to Africa?" I understand you have to dumb things down every now and then, but that kind of question is so lacking so heavily in context, it's almost criminal. When I say Negroes will be taken to Africa, I'm talking of a voluntary and assisted move, the exact type Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad espouse. This is a slight misstatement, as the black Muslims tend to favor using the Deep South as a basis for their nation rather than the formation of one in Africa. Nevertheless, citing them will only make your position appear more mainstream, despite the differences in your motivations. Let's take a look at the map. You might notice, we don't have much of a starting base. In fact, we have none at all. But that'll change, hopefully. Maybe not, hopefully, ideally it wouldn't change, but you know what I mean. It's less than a week away from the inauguration of President-elect Goldwater, who won one of the slimmest and most incredible upsets in presidential history. This has motivated Martin Luther King Jr. along with his cronies to organize a civil rights march from Selma all the way to Capitol. Days before March is scheduled to begin, you happen to be in town. Manage to secure a time spot speaking to local segregationists. In these challenging times, it is our duty as white Christians to unite in the face of this racial onslaught. However, I'd like to make an important clarification. If all we do is defend against change, we will lose. We need to fight for change. Our kind of change. Our system of segregation in the long term just can't make it. It is nothing more than a crumbling Maginot Line. If we want to win, separation is the only path forward. Your speech has captured the crowd with your rhetoric that's as unique as it is extreme, practically mesmerizing them. In the days following your speech, tensions in Selma continue to intensify, and before long you find yourself standing in a large crowd, listening as Dr. King delivers a short speech on the steps of the city's courthouse. The speech's topic, voting rights, is of no surprise, but when it ends and the Reverend walks towards you, you're taken aback. Mr. Rockwell, I'm surprised. It's nice to finally put a face to the name. I'm sure you must have many thoughts on the speech up there. You know, we're having a rally tomorrow at SCLC. If you manage to stop by, you're welcome to share a few words. You know, Mr. King, I don't have to tell you that you and I don't exactly agree, but I will say this. I respect your gall. I think maybe I can make time to appear at your little Negro gathering. Just be warned, I'm not going to hold back just for the sake of you or your cronies. King is pleased, however backhanded your response may be. The next day, you arrive at the SCLC rally to a stunned crowd, and as you deliver your speech, many are taken aback. Still, when you finish, you receive polite applause, and Dr. King thanks you for your words. Does that do anything? 1.9%, look at that. We're getting the write-in vote. I'm guessing. I don't quite know. Anyway, this morning, the children of Chesapeake, Virginia woke up and went to their schools, only to find them surrounded by dozens of police officers. As many feared, when the students approached their school's entrances, the troopers blocked any African Americans, turning them away. Just a few hours ago, William Story, the district's assistant superintendent, released a statement announcing the beginning of a report against immoral and illegal integration. In response to this, John Patler, the chief editor of your party's magazine, The Patriot, has asked to write a special issue. What should it cover? We need to try and tie ourselves to this Story fellow. He's the kind of person our nation desperately needs, a man who's got the guts to stand up and take action against this race-mixing filth we've got. I want his picture on our front page with a full biography to boot. William Story, white hero, sells like hotcakes as soon as it's released. Story's rapidly risen in both prominence and popularity. Many have begun calling for his candidacy in the upcoming governor election, which could throw a wrench in your plans. I gotta look this up real quick, because I know this is what happens is based off an actual election. Who ends up winning here in real life? It's still the Democrat, but alright, so it's based off a 1965 election. Story ends up running for third party, but he does not do very well. And also, if you look, a little side diversion. Look at that. Look who it is. Anyway, earlier today, following Governor Harrison's statement that he would intervene in the Chesapeake revolt, several Negro students attempted to enter Deep Creek High School. The police officers guarding the entrance under orders to block the students by any means necessary responded with aggressive force. Multiple deaths reported, calls have intensified for President Goldwater to take action. Reportedly, he's been meeting with Attorney General Denison Kitchell and President Eisenhower, who recommend mobilizing federal troops. As you read the day's news, what is your reaction? Goldwater hasn't got the guts to try and pull something here. It's Harrison who I'm worried about. Sure, people say he's under Bird's thumb, but the governor's term limited. What's he's got to lose? After all, this is the man who urged Virginians to accept the Civil Rights Act, of all things. Harrison has stated that he has no intention of arresting the officers in question or story himself, but considering the governor's track record, many are still worried or hopeful, depending on personal opinion. You're stood in the central room of your party headquarters. Around you are several other members of your organization's leadership. In front of you, a television screen. You watch in silent disgust as the newsreel plays footage of countless National Guardsmen surrounding various Chesapeake schools, escorting black students inside. That race-mixing Jew. Ignoring the angered comments of one of your men, you stand in thought as rage builds in your hate-filled heart. Your men are in further discussion, angrily ranting about the president's betrayal, but as you take a breath and turn around, they quickly fall silent. After a brief pause, you tell Cole, your deputy commander, to begin the necessary preparations. You're making a speech. Just hours later, with hundreds of soldiers still reestablishing order in Chesapeake, you head down to the central square. I'm going to pop out real quick. Yep, still nothing. Anyway, you head down to the central square of the city. You step onto the makeshift podium your men had put together and gaze down at the rather large crowd in front of you, mostly made up of your own members. But as onlookers notice the scene unfolding, many begin to wander over. After a final glance at your hastily made script, you tuck in your pocket, look at the crowd, and begin to speak. Our president is a fraud. You must hear those words all the time, but today they ring true. Again and again, he said he was against a sort of federal incursion, but look at what he's done. The great white Christian majority of people that he claimed to serve were nothing more than a stepping stone to getting him elected. We should have known from the beginning. You can always tell of his sort. He's a con man of the worst order. The crowd is enamored, and when you finish your speech, they erupt into ferocious applause. Goldwater's popularity in the South has collapsed, and while some accuse you making anti-Semitic remarks, there is no denying that you've struck a chord. The moment your speech is finished, transcribed pamphlets are handed out to the crowd, and within a day, your words spread across not just Virginia, but the whole of the South. Almost immediately, you become a household name among hundreds of thousands of enraged and betrayed Southerners. Donations to your party have spiked to new levels, and its leadership are curious as to how you intend to exploit your newfound popularity. What do you tell them? Well, what do we tell them? You know why we had to pass out these pamphlets in the first place? Because the media won't televise the damn speech. They are structurally biased against us. Well, that'll change soon enough, but for the time being, we've got to take to the streets and agitate like the Negroes. The next day, a new number of party members marched down Wilson Boulevard, Arlington's main thoroughfare. With the march announced beforehand, a number of counter-protesters block your way, and the standoff is dispersed by police. The incident is widely reported. A number of Southern politicians, including Harry Byrd, Strom Thurmond, and George Wallace, have made comments lambasting Goldwater for his betrayal of the very people who put him in office, as Wallace put it. Indeed, Goldwater relied on, in one way or another, many of these figures to flip the formerly solid South. Following a short speech, you're stopped by a reporter, him asking you to give a comment on Wallace's statement. Wallace is absolutely right here. I actually have great admiration for him. When he stood in that door, just like with Story, that's the kind of action we need. You know, the way his party's moving, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in mine in, say, 3 or 4 years. The reporter laughs, scribbling down your statement as you walk away. 2 days later, Wallace is asked about the possibility of him joining the TAP, to which he chuckles. Well, I'll just have to see about that. An unprecedented move and show of force, William Story, the man behind the Chesapeake Revolt, has been indicted, arrested, and removed from his position. The case against him appears to be cut and dry, considering he openly admitted to violating both the Supreme Court order and federal integration guidelines, but nevertheless his arrest has sparked further outrage among segregationists. In the aftermath of your speech, many are turning to you to give comment. In arresting and attempting to silence Story, Goldwater's done the opposite. He has turned this man into a symbol of white resistance. His name and picture will be on the front page of every newspaper in America. This horrid action has done nothing but fuel the fire of his inevitable vengeance. You've turned Story into a martyr, and a very powerful one at that. Your talk of an vengeance hits at a possible run for governor or higher office, which certainly gets people talking. The system of Virginia is always interesting. You have the counties, and then the cities are their own voting or district, I suppose, is a way to put it. It's always interesting how that works. You're standing on your office's balcony, looking out onto the modest courtyard of your party's headquarters, sizing up some of the new recruits. You're interrupted when your office's phone line begins to ring. On the other end is your party's deputy commander, Matthias Cole. Sir, I've just been informed that tomorrow morning about 300 conservatives are going to meet in Richmond City. It seems Godwin was just too much for them. They want someone else to run for governor, and well, sounds like they want you, Commander. It's about damn time. We need to be sure about this Cole. I don't think they'll go for him. Story, I mean, since he's pending conviction and all. There's always a chance. I don't care what you have to do to get it, but it's critical you contact him and get his endorsement for me. For much bigger problems to worry about, Story isn't exactly jumping to endorse you. Finally, he relents when Cole promises that a Governor Rockwell will do anything to keep him out of jail. Well, some time yet. After months of seemingly random events pushing you into the limelight, you've finally been nominated for the governorship, the delegates even allowing you to run under the traditional American Party banner. After 5 years of hard work, you have a chance to make a real change. Shortly after your nomination, you take to the convention stage, yourself standing behind a podium as an eager crowd of delegates, party members, and folks from the streets wait before you. Ladies and gentlemen, I proudly accept your nomination for the governorship of this great state, and I run with a single goal: to be a voice for the great white Christian majority of all Virginians. A majority which has been forgotten, trampled upon, and mongrelized by the two major parties for far, far too long. I pledge to you this: I am the white man's candidate for governor. Your rhetoric is strangely similar to the rhetoric you'd hear in Virginia 100 years ago. While a dozen or so journalists in the crowd are sickened beyond belief, the rest go absolutely wild for it, and all you can do is smirk. After all, you'll only need a plurality to win. And that's where things start to look up for us. Now, we can't visit any of these places, but we start off with about 18% of the vote, which is, it's not winning, but it's not bad either. Now that you've officially entered the race, you're facing off against Republican candidate Linwood Holton and Democratic candidate Mills Godwin. Neither of which have acknowledged your candidacy as of yet. It's only natural for a third-party candidate to go on the attack, and as you prepare to deliver your first official speech as a nominee in the heart of Arlington, many are anxious to hear your sure-to-be riveting opinion on your new adversaries. Mills Godwin used to be Senator Byrd's right-hand man. fought tooth and nail to protect our people. I think I would have gone along with that, Goodwin. Well, but not this new one. Not the one endorsed by the NAACP. Not the one who pledges full equality. A code for Negro domination. Indeed, Godwin used to be a major proponent of Byrd's massive resistance policy, but he has since changed his tune. To many, his flip seems genuine, but in your case, that can only be a good thing, with conservative Democrats abandoning him in droves. The Warren Commission, which reconvened shortly after Goldwater's inauguration, with the goal of deciding once and for all if Johnson had any part of the Kennedy assassination, has reached a final verdict. Not guilty, but news has stunned Americans, with fears confirmed that they elected their president under false pretenses. While Johnson has remained silent, Goldwater has made a statement saying that he never took political advantage of the original report. A blatant lie. With your prior statements on Goldwater fresh in the lines of people, many are eager to hear your thoughts. This is a scandal that far surpasses the original report, and it only serves to confirm what we already know about our president. He's a rat. He ran on pure speculation to force his way into office. Now, I hate Johnson with every fiber of my being, but he was slandered by someone far worse. This is the right tone to hit. Your base has no love for Johnson, thanks to that act he signed, but he's moved out of their crosshairs in favor of Goldwater, whose approval rating has all but collapsed. In the aftermath of the second report's results, new polls show that Americans' trust in government have fallen to record lows, with the most recent poll bottoming out at 34%. Theories are all over the place. Some believe Robert Kennedy influenced it, others think Goldwater did. As the nation grows despondent, there is an unusual effect. Expected voter turnout appears to have collapsed, with yourself on the balance seeing the benefit. How do you intend to exploit this? These polls will tell you people don't like the government, and they have every right not to. Just look around us. Crime rates are through the roof. Young boys are being sent off to fight wars. Our very president is illegitimate, and it's only a matter of time before the economy goes kaput. You're fanning the flames, and it's working, though only partially, considering your minimal influence. Still, you're making some stretches here, talking of an economic collapse that's purely hypothetical. Is that foreshadowing for what's going to happen in 68? Midnight 1968? I don't know. Mills Goodwin has recently stated his support for more liberal fiscal policy, including deficit spending and the use of bonds to pay for state projects. Such action would be in contrast to the way Democrats have won Virginia for the past 40 years, and many view it as an attempt to cash in on the increasing unpopularity of President Goldwater's economic platform. While such issues are not at the forefront of your campaign, clarifying your views on them could be an excellent way to attack Godwin, or at least expand your campaign's profile. Do you have any comment on your opponent's position? Yet again, Godwin is doing everything he can to win over that precious Negro vote, him and Holton. They're in tug-of-war over the man who can promise the most race mixing, the most welfare handouts, the most so-called initiatives to push whites out of jobs. And the only loser is the white man. Rockwell calls out racial tug-of-war is on the front page of the Daily Dawn in a local paper. As Godwin continues to distance himself from the base that built his party, it continues to slide into your column. Once again, you and your party's leadership are gathered in the central room of your headquarters, watching as the news anchor says that in just a few moments, the president will be making an address. Finally, the screen fades to black, and then to static, and then finally to Goldwater space. My fellow Americans, as your president, it's not my duty to do whatever will get me the most votes or will make me the most popular. My duty is to govern this nation in the way that I think is right. It is to face hard, unspeakable truths. And the hard, unspeakable truth today is this: we are at war with North Vietnam. Well, this is what I've always said. We either win this thing or we get out. Goldwater seems to agree, the president ending his address with a request for Congress to formally recognize the fact that a state of war exists between the U.S. and North Vietnam. The next day, Congress votes, easily passing the resolution. As America moves into a state of war with North Vietnam, Cold War has begun his long-planned escalation. Earlier today, in one swift maneuver, the president signed an order allowing for the unrestricted bombing of the North, along with a buildup of more than 100,000 troops. There is even talk of a full-scale invasion. While many used to favor intervention, these actions have shocked Americans. At a speech in Lafayette Square in D.C., just a short distance from your headquarters in Arlington, a number of anti-war demonstrators joined the crowd, yelling out as you try to speak. You hippie clowns are some of the most vile, disgusting creatures on this earth. How can you possibly justify standing before us in our nation's capital and cheering for the communist swine who fight and kill our boys every single day? My boys ought to teach you a lesson. It seems school's in session. As he ran and rave, a number of your supporters move out to the mob, and before long a fight breaks out. Police are quick to break it up, and barring a few bruises, no one is hurt. On the bright side, the incident makes front page news. Lincoln Rockwell's hate bus. Oh yeah, I just noticed that. They hate race mixing. Who would have thought? How are we doing right now? 22%. Really just digging into Godwin's votes. That's alright. The trend disorder this nation has seen over the past year appears to have culminated in a stunning display of chaos in the new smoke-filled City of Angels. Over the last few hours, news outlets have played non-stop footage of riots, looting, and rampant violence in the streets. The inner cities are war zones as college campuses become pyres dotting the skyline. What started as yet another race war riot has snowballed into a citywide mutiny against the administration's repeated shortcomings. As you stumble across Virginia, will you comment on the events unfolding on the opposite coast? Our nation has fallen apart, yet the president chooses to sit idly by as whites are attacked in the streets. Just look at the news. Almost 100 Americans are dead, and counting. I saw reports of a white man being ripped from his car and beaten to death. Yet Goldwater does nothing. With future civil rights legislation appearing dead on arrival, and now a war in Vietnam, many on the left are blaming Goldwater's actions for having provoked this unique disaster. And now you've shifted the far right's focus against him too. All to the joy of Pat Brown. It's been nearly 2 days since the rioting erupted in Watts, and despite Mayor Sam Yorty's request to mobilize the National Guard, Governor Pat Brown, who is away in Athens, has yet to do so, seemingly out of nothing more than pure downright negligence. With stores being looted, buildings being burned, women being raped, and men being killed, the citizens of Watts, alongside newly arrived and heavily armed guards of the Minutemen, have begun to take the issue of law and order into their own hands. The death toll has skyrocketed. In 1960, when I formed this party, I predicted the exact race riots that are happening today. In 60, there weren't any, and I said there would be everywhere. Now here they are. How many times must I be right and the communists wrong for you people to start waking up? Indeed, mass race riots were something you predicted, but you weren't exactly the first or last person to do so. Still, some see you as a prophet. Within the day, a horrified Governor Brown finally sends in the National Guard. With 200 dead, the situation is finally calmed. While your campaign has managed to stun the experts, there's one key area in which you haven't been able to match the major parties: funding. Your party's coffers have mostly been filled by a large number of individual donations, and such a flow of money is unreliable at best. To address this problem, you've taken a trip to Dallas, Texas. In private home, you're set to speak before a small crowd of 20 or so prominent donors. How you will convince them to aid your campaign. Folks, this is true. Everywhere I've gone in this campaign, I've drawn bigger crowds. I've gotten more applause and more enthusiasm, and they knew who I was. I wasn't sneaking in there as a states' rights man. They know what I'm about. I told them openly what I was going to do, and I was cheered. I've won the people. I just need a little help from you all, and I wholeheartedly believe I can win the governorship come November. your current numbers, it indeed looks as if you might actually have a shot. And with that in mind, almost the whole crowd pulls out their checkbooks, and you make out with a handsome sum. 24%, not bad at all. Still not winnable, but what are you going to do? As you board your plane heading back to Arlington, you quickly find that you aren't the only one doing so. In 2 days, President Goldwater, former President Eisenhower, and former Vice President Nixon will be making a joint campaign appearance for Holton. At the same time, the newly acquitted former President Johnson will be giving a speech for Godwin. That night, in a conversation with you, Cole floats the idea of picketing their event, taking advantage of the large amount of press sure to be in attendance. The only thing left to decide is choosing which event to focus on. Republicans are dead in Virginia. They haven't won the governorship once in the entire history of the state. Godwin's the man I've got to beat. And if Holton can wrangle away some of these liberals from him, well, that only makes my job easier. So how about it? Let's crash Lyndon's party. You manage to get close, but security stops you just outside the event in Roanoke. However, Johnson takes notice of commotion, and after having dealt with enough bullshit over the past year, he loses his temper, calling you out. The scene makes front page news, much to your delight. Election day is only a month away, and it's safe to say that your efforts to get your name out there have been a success. However, most of your supporters are ambivalent. There are many undecided voters who are skeptical as to what exactly you do as governor. As such, it has become necessary for you to temporarily stop being a demagogue, start being a candidate, and come out with an actual policy platform. What will be its primary focus? Relocation laws. It would be of mutual benefit if a state made agreeable arrangements for the relocation of dissatisfied citizens. Therefore, I advocate for a state relocation board to give assistance to any citizen who wishes to leave here for Africa or a similar place in the United States. This is the bread and butter of your ideology, and while it's still niche, you've actually framed it in a way that's viable for governorship, which will sway a number of on-the-face segregationists. In one of the more mundane issues of national campaign, yesterday President Goldwater signed into law the Hart-Celler Act, an amendment to the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. This act has liberalized America's immigration system, easing the entry of people from Eastern Europe and Asia. It is generally popular, but as you might expect, it's detested by those who, say, aren't particularly interested in further contact with non-whites. What's your opinion on the law? I understand that this is a federal law, but it doesn't mean it's impossible for the good people of our state to fight against it. We do live in a republic, after all. As governor, I fully intend on challenging this law in our courts. I'll stop at nothing to get it done. So shout out Phil Hart. I'm working on my Tino playthrough, which follows his presidency. So if you want to check that out, it's moving forward. Check that out. It's going to be a lot more non-depressing compared to this. He promised to try and overturn the act. Is appreciated by those against it, even if your ability to follow through was questionable. We're like second place in a lot of these beefier counties. Anyway, earlier today, at the president's orders, American troops crossed the border into North Vietnam. An invasion that was almost unthinkable last year. Many feared it following Goldwater's ascendancy, and now has arrived. The fighting is fierce, and while American forces have an early advantage, there's talk of a sure to be disastrous Chinese invasion, as there was in Korea. With America in open war for the first time in 20 years, do you have any comments to make on this development? Look, opposition to Goldwater has been one of the key issues in my campaign, but the fact is that most of my supporters support this invasion, and some probably want to see it go further. I don't want to give praise to a man I'm practically running against. Fair enough. 2 days ago, the Chinese ambassador issued an ultimatum to the State Department, withdraw from North Vietnam or face consequences. It was set to expire in a week, but was rejected within the day, and hours later, Chinese troops crossed the border. Direct fighting is yet to occur between Chinese and American soldiers, but it's only a matter of time. Publicly, Goldwater's addressed the people, asking them to remain calm, while privately calls for a further 100,000 troops to be sent overseas. Seeing opportunity, Cole has asked you to draft a statement. Goldwater has run this war in a manner we should have expected, like an incompetent fool. This Chinese intervention was something any one of us could have predicted. And perhaps he did, or at least one of his people did. But they utterly prepared. We utterly failed to prepare for it. Indeed, an intervention by Chinese troops was something many predicted, and the fiasco going on has eroded what confidence people had left in the president. With skirmishes beginning to be reported between American and Chinese troops, this war appears to be snowballing into something far greater, something the U.S. can, at the current time, barely afford. To remedy this, Goldwater has called for something extraordinarily controversial. Massive spending cuts to almost every aspect of the federal budget, from the farm subsidies to welfare programs. A coalition of hawks and fiscal conservatives appear ready to pass the Tower-Ashbrook Act. At a rally, you begin taking questions. An elderly woman worriedly asks you how you'll safeguard her retirement. Miss, during this campaign, I've talked about how we need to keep the sound policies of Senator Byrd alive in the state, and I stand by that. But I want you to know, fiscal responsibility doesn't include us abandoning our elders. I'll stop at nothing to ensure you're taken care of. You've left out exactly how you'll take care of her. Perhaps that's for the best, threading the needle and all. The woman thanks you, saying that you've given her a lot to think about. As is tradition, Senator Harry Board, the man who is the de facto dictator of Virginia's Democratic Party, has waited until the very end of the campaign to make an official endorsement. Today he has done so, and in an absolutely beautiful turn of events, he's endorsed you for the governorship, citing Godwin's opinion on the race issue. Of course, Godwin's despondent, while Holton is just stunned. How do you intend on taking advantage for this? Jesus, this is exactly what we need. You don't need me to tell you that Byrd is unbelievable sway in this state. And once all of these rural Democrats hear about this, I'll practically be a shoo-in come election day. Let's put some flyers out. We can't let this thing be forgotten. As he nears the end of his life, which is most certainly one of the factors in his endorsement view, Byrd's sway in the Democratic Party has waned. Still, many rural segregationists heed on his every word. If they were on the fences before, they are in your camp now. Oh, Jesus, that's a lot of black. Oh, God, we're winning. With the campaign entering its final days, your party has managed to gather up enough funds to purchase a 30-minute film slot on one of Virginia's most famous news stations. In that slot, you'll be airing what you have dubbed the campaign film. The first half consists of a conversation between yourself and Robert Surrey, a close friend of yours. The second half will be a monologue by you, summing up your campaign's message as it nears the end. In 1962, George Wallace was able to use one issue on which every white Christian in the United States could unite. We can't unite as Republicans. We can't unite as Democrats. We can't unite as conservatives or liberals, Protestants or Catholics, or rich people or poor people, or Northerners or Southerners. There is only one issue on which we can unite, and that issue is race. Ladies and gentlemen, let's let the white man vote white. Your striking slogan of vote white is one that sticks in the minds of both your opponents and your supporters. Let's hope this ad is enough to get you over the hump. We already got over the hump well enough. It's Halloween, and the election's in 3 days. You're given a speech at one of the final rallies of the campaign, when suddenly Cole walks on stage, ushering you to step aside and away from the microphone. As you ask what's going on, your deputy commander leans in, whispering, "Sir, Dan Burris is dead. Just today, the New York Times, they published an article. Said he was Jewish. A few hours later, he killed himself. Shot himself twice. I'm sorry, Commando. Just one moment, Cole. Hello, everyone. Can I have your attention? I apologize if I seem distressed, but I would like you all to know that I have just been informed that a close friend of mine has committed suicide just a few hours ago. I apologize, but this event will be ending now. Onlookers walk in shock at the sudden news, stunned for a few moments before slowly leaving. Let's see if a sympathy vote can carry you to victory, as many thought it would for Lyndon Johnson last year. Well, here we go. We're doing quite well in some of these counties. Bedford, Caroline, Greensville. First county for Republican, Highland, is coming in. But we are holding it tight by very solid margins. Though these rural communities, we were already leading, basically. Godwin wasn't even running in some of these. Didn't even get any votes, rather. It's going to start narrowing as, like, these northern counties start coming in. But we don't need 50%. We just need a majority. And right now we're holding on to it. So our vote is narrowing ever so slightly. Holton is gaining a little bit. But we're getting closer. Polls are staying steady for now. And that's it. 51 counties versus 44 versus 33. 35.1% of the vote versus 31.5 versus 33.4. Daily Dawn, November 8th, 1965. It is a new day in the Old Dominion. After days of counting and recounting, a victory has finally been declared in the hotly contested race for the governor's mansion in Virginia. The election, which took place Tuesday, is one of the closest in recent history, a three-way race between the Democratic candidate and Lieutenant Governor Mills Godwin, Republican candidate Linwood Holton, and the insurgent third-party bid of George Lincoln Rockwell, a far-right candidate put forward by the segregationist groups in the state, and commander of the local Traditional American Party, a racial separatist organization. In a shocking turn of events, a third party won a gubernatorial race for the first time since 1942, with Rockwell officially being declared governor-elect late last evening, the first non-Democrat to do so in Virginia since 1881. With less than 24 hours since his official victory, already we're seeing this ripple of Rockwell's upset across both the state and the nation. Black communities have taken to the streets in protest with immediate uptick in racial violence. President Goldwater, who's been mired in controversy over the ongoing war in Vietnam, made a statement, a televised speech this morning, saying, "There are risks involved with electing leaders who have hate-stained hearts." For his part, incumbent Governor Harrison has announced preparations for the transition to power next January. We sent a correspondent to the TAP headquarters in Arlington, where many party members were openly celebrating their historic victory. Rockwell himself expressed eagerness to get to work, giving the following statement. "Well, I'm not one to get cocky, but I don't want to mince words here. This is a great, great victory for all whites. And I don't hesitate to admit that I will do anything, absolutely anything, to ensure the survival and happiness of our white Western people. Elated," he added, "but I don't want to create a false sense of our progress. Even Rome, during its decline, never reached the depths to which America has already sunk. Soon enough, I think something will give, and it'll become necessary for us white Christian patriots to step up, and not just in one state." Some are speculating this is an indication of his intention for the 1968 presidential election. Recent polls have shown that across several southern states, Rockwell's name recognition has risen above 85%, with 65% respondents saying they would vote for him in a national election. Rockwell will be officially sworn in as governor on January 15th, 1966. His agenda includes, continued on page 3. Well, here we stand. Here we go. Closest. Staunton, not tied to us. Very close in Buckingham County, apparently. That's about 8 votes. Is that math? Yeah, that math's out. Orange County. Held strong by about 13 votes there. James City County. At 12. Giles County. That's not nearly. Historic results. We did a little bit better than the historic results, apparently. Not a blowout, obviously, but still did okay. And further reading. Coming soon. McGovern versus Rockwell versus Rockefeller. What a potential. What? That's going to be interesting when that drops. Anyway. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave things there, my friends. I hope you all enjoyed this. Obviously a little bit more unsavory, uncomfortable, but the reading is interesting, and it's just a building block for better things to come. Or worse things to come, actually, if you want to look at it, and depending on how you want to look at it. I was talking about, like, more mods, but this America does not look very good. Anyway, yeah, I think you all know what I mean. Hopefully you know what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and leave things there, my friends. Thanks so much for watching. Like this video if you like, dislike if you didn't. Leave any comments or feedback down in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get, and I appreciate any feedback you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. If you have any comments or feedback, comment section below. And yeah, that's it for now, my friends. I thank you all for watching. My name has been Mr. DB333, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye now.